On the 4th of July on center court, Sampras and Courier have been battling for the #1 spot in the world all year. Courier is currently #2, although seeded 3rd here at Wimbledon behind Stefan Edberg, a better grass player. And here's how Sampras arrived.
Well, Dick, the first couple rounds he played a couple tough Australian grass court players in Neil Borwick and Jamie Morgan. Struggled a little bit, got by there. Easy victory over Byron Black in the 3rd round in Zimbabwe. The British player Andrew Foster showed a little emotion. I think helped him out later against Andre Agassi. A big win for Pete in the quarterfinals. Coming back in the 5th set to win 6-4. And then put on, as you said, a tennis clinic against Boris Becker. Straight set victory.
And Courier has just smiled his way right to the final.
Gianluca Pozzi, an Italian who's not bad on grass, but Ronald Agenor, the Haitian, is a bit at sea there. Young Australian Jason Stoltenberg starting to come into his own, and Courier had to save 2 set points in that 2nd set breaker. Wayne Ferreira, very stylish grass court player, but Jim broke him down. Then his pal, Todd Martin, 6 feet 6 inches tall from East Lansing. Remember his name. And removing a 2-time champion. Marvelous performance against Stefan Edberg. So that Courier and Sampras beat champions in the semifinals, and that hadn't happened since 1927.
Sampras quick to point out that he has the edge head-to-head 7-2, and that Sampras has won all 3 times that they have reached a final.
Dick, however, more pressure today on Pete Sampras, in my opinion. If Jim Courier can win this Wimbledon final today, I believe he's virtually assured of being the #1 for the entire year. Pete Sampras has been ranked #1 on the computer the last couple months, wants to justify his place there. Less pressure on Jim Courier, I believe, help his chances. He's going to need all the help he can get.
Sampras, as you saw, growing up in Southern California, but now has made his residence in Florida. And Courier from Dade City, Florida. And Courier's had a grand slam year, winning the Australian. He was favored to take 3 in a row and win at the French, but was beaten in the finals by Sergi Bruguera. And here he is as the surprise finalist at Wimbledon.
You know, we'll be going to the Friends box to show the coaches, Tim Gullickson for Sampras and Brad Stein and Jose Garris for Courier. But we ought to really point out coaches at their formative stages. Pete Fisher out in Palos Verdes, California, who took away the 2-handed backhand that Sampras was using. And Sergio Cruz. There's Tim Gullickson. Sergio Cruz was Jim's coach during the Bollettieri Academy years, and he left Bollettieri along with Jim. And there's Brad Stein and Jose Aguirre. So we'd like to pay tribute to those early coaches who helped mold their games.
Let's pay tribute to Jim Courier, too, for bouncing back from that tough defeat at the French Open. Amazing effort to be in the finals here. Here we go.
And the redhead Courier starts it on the 4th of July.
15 love. Good way to start. Jim Courier going to be staying back on his serve for the most part. Said he learned a lot watching Andre Agassi in last year's final. Andre chose to stay back off his serve. 15 love.
He's had a lucky age for winning a first Wimbledon, 22. John McEnroe was 22 when he won his first title here. Andre Agassi last year was 22. Rod Laver was. So was Edberg and Stiek.
Deuce is wild.
Out. 30 love.
Sampras a year younger, 21, the youngest ever U.S. Open champion at 19. But all the experts predicted that Wimbledon would be a championship for him. His game so perfectly styled for grass.
Dick, he just has so much variety in so many ways. Off the serve, the ground, and the volley.
Little serve and volley from Courier.
Something else that should be pointed out is they both use the same trainer off court, Pat Etcheberry. Jim has a lot of respect for Pete. He knows how hard Pete's worked. Most people don't think of Pete as that hard a worker, but he's really picked that up in the last couple of years thanks to Pat. So Jim doesn't really have the edge there that he normally does against other players.
Ooh, into the royal box. Good try by the Duchess of Kent. She could play second base for me, I'll tell you.
looks magnificent again today. So at love, Jim Courier announces he's ready to roll on this holiday championship at Wimbledon.
First game.
The elegant Duchess of Kent made the presentation of the women's championship yesterday. Chairman of the championships, John Curry, and the Duke of Kent, who is the president of the All England Club.
The Duke is topless. You don't see that. That shows you it's form. It's only happened 4 times since 1976.
And we also saw Princess Diana adorned in peach today. Her first appearance at these championships.
It is. When the Duke takes off his jacket, that's a signal to the other men in the box that they may as well.
Over 100 degrees again in the sun on center court. Thermometer is placed at the umpire's chair. Up over 102 now. 80 degrees in the shade as this warm, sunny Wimbledon continues. No rain the entire fortnight.
But you might know, when's the last time that happened? No rain in a fortnight.
1977.
We saw in the previous match against Stefan Edberg that Jim Courier started off slowly against the Edberg serve. First couple points against Pete Sampras, the same thing. That's a key to the match here. How quickly Jim Courier can get on Pete Sampras' serve. Miss-hit that ball a little bit for a winner.
First service.
Nice low return here by Jim Courier. He wants to try to block the ball, get it as early as possible. Forces Pete to half volley that up. The ball sat up because of the firmness of the court we've been talking about. Beautiful topspin lob winner. Held that to the last second, just flicked it over Pete's head. Jim Courier very strong. That was just his wrist strength there that propelled that ball over Pete's head.
And Sampras showing why he's so tough. That second serve was devilish. Boris Becker even commented after being defeated that sometimes he thought that second serve was his first.
He said he didn't think Pete knew the difference. Great. Foot fault.
That's exactly what Pete Sampras wants his opponents to think, not know whether he's serving a first or second. Keep him guessing.
Game Sampras.
Big, heavy second serve with a big kick. Easy put away for the volley, 1-all.
Game all, first set.
And Courier, if he's going to win, is going to have to break down his opponent, take a lot of shots from the back court, and hope that Sampras eventually will give him enough second serves that are easy enough that he can put in play and challenge.
15 love.
Dick, he's also going to have to hit a high percentage of first serves in. He wants to try to get ahead in the point. He's not going to be serving and volleying much. He wants to hit a good, deep first serve. Have Pete just block the ball back and try to take control of the point, either with that cross-court backhand he likes to hit or that inside-out forehand. Maybe come in behind that then. If you notice when Jim Courier serves, he jumps to his left right after he served the ball. Loves to run around that backhand.
Courier 4 of 7 first serves.
15 all.
62 and 59%, a pretty good percentage on grass. Jim could get that up just a little bit. He'd be better off. He knows that Pete Sampras, if he watched the match against Andre Agassi, he basically just blocked the ball back. We saw more of him hitting out against Boris Becker, however. It'll be interesting to see how he approaches it today. It appears that Pete Sampras early on is content to just get in backcourt rallies, see how much pace Jim Courier has on his shots, and
Hey,
just
there's nothing
adjust
wrong
when
with
he
his
sees
game back there, is there?
He's improved so much off the ground, Dick. He's learned that cross-court backhand pass, that hook forehand, as well as those classic down-the-line strokes he utilized so effectively in the 1990 U.S. Open.
Sampras almost into the alley.
Pete usually likes to wait another shot or two here, but he felt like it hit a good enough approach shot to come in. It's probably a smart move at 15-30, put some pressure on Jim immediately. If he had been a little bit looser and less tight over the situation, he probably would have gotten that ball over the net for a winning drop volley. Instead, it's 30-all. When you're in a Wimbledon final or a Grand Slam final, usually the last thing that starts moving is your feet. Both players need to make sure their feet are moving. There you saw Pete was a little bit flat-footed in those previous 2 points. You always see Stefan Edberg do those bunny hops right before he's about to return serve to make sure his feet are moving.
Jim Courier holds 2-1 opening set.
Courier leads 2 games.
There's absolutely no way that it's possible that this little guy wearing cut-off pants with a belt and Washington Redskin tube socks up to his knees ever made it to be the #1 tennis player in the world. It's just not possible. Not possible. It's possible.
Just as I'm sure there are some young tennis players watching breakfast today, so did Pete Sampras. He remembers the names and even an old guy, Bud Collins.
Well, growing up this in the U.S. Open were the tournaments I really watched on TV, getting up early and watching this old guy on the left here, you know, talk. It was basically my memories of Borg-McEnroe matches, Becker won here at 17 and 18. Those were the memories I had of Wimbledon.
And now at 21, he tries to join that elite list of Wimbledon champions.
This match is probably not going to change the course of the world affairs, but this is a huge, huge match in tennis terms. The #1 and the #2 players we see here, Jim Courier trying to dip that return down low, couldn't get it low enough, easy put away for Pete Sampras. We couldn't ask for anything better than this match. 4th of July, 2 Americans playing for #1 ranking.
Just missed.
30-15.
Well, Jim Courier said when he and Pete came over here in '89 as kids, and we'll see this replay.
This is Boris Becker's favorite shot, that lunging forehand cross-court. Jim Courier just missed that by about ½ an inch.
Courier said that the two of them, he said, we didn't win anything. We lost in the first round of Wimbledon, and he said it was us against the world, but now it's the two of them for the world.
That was at a time when McEnroe and Connors, your stars, starting to drift a bit, and the Americans wondered, would we ever have another men's champion here?
Isn't it funny to even talk about now? They say, what's wrong with American tennis? We have Courier, Sampras, Agassi, Chang. That's just for starters.
Game, Sampras.
I think it's the best crop of American players we've ever had.
And I don't think there's any question that they help each other by growing up together and inspiring each
2
other.
games all.
We see a replay of this nice serve out wide. Pete likes to utilize that serve. Just catches the back edge of the line for 2-all.
And you didn't even mention Todd Martin, and he raised some eyebrows here with his play, and David Wheaton.
Todd Martin beating Goran Ivanisevic in the 3rd round. To me, if Jim Courier can beat Pete Sampras, it would be a bigger upset than Andre Agassi beating Goran Ivanisevic last year. Pete, a much more complete player than Goran. Better off the ground, solider volleyer, tougher mentally.
Well, he's improved his return since he lost to Goran in the semifinals last year. He was just flailing away.
He's talked about one of the reasons he hired Tim Gullickson was because Tim had success on grass, and so that he could help him improve at that very thing, the return of serve. Be a little bit more flexible with the wrist. Pete Sampras, having played Andre Agassi, is going to help him here. We see Jim Courier hitting that forehand down line. Pete likes to set you up with that shot. He leaves the forehand side open, dares you to go there, tries to set you up for that forehand cross court. There, he caught the ball a little bit late, missed it down the line. 15-love. It's one of Pete Sampras' favorite plays. Sort of lulls you to sleep back there. You feel like he's in a defensive position. Suddenly he hits that big forehand cross court, and in he comes in net a la Stefan Edberg. A lot quicker than you realize, Pete Sampras. Very smooth around the court.
Yeah, he is so fluid. You underestimate both his court movement and his power.
A lot of players underestimate his fitness, too, but Jim Courier will not make that mistake today.
There's the backside boogie.
Evidence of the American success at Wimbledon this year. At 4 to the quarters and 2 all the way to the finals. Richard Matuszewski, a nice surprise for him. His best ever Grand Slam. Made it to the 4th round. 28-year-old right-hander from Jersey.
Best match of the tournament I felt so far, I don't know about you, Dick, was the Pete Sampras-Andre Agassi match.
Awfully good. Chang Wheaton was terrific, too.
30-15.
Second double fault. 30-15. 2-all opening set.
Seems to me that Jim Courier and Andre Agassi are bringing a whole new style to Wimbledon. Who would have thought that you'd see men players staying back on the first serve? 5 years ago, everyone's lamenting about the power in tennis. Now you see guys staying back on their first and second serves.
Just out, and Courier hesitating, waiting for the call, and it finally arrived.
People might wonder, well, how could that be so successful? And the reason is that Jim Courier and Andre Agassi have so much pace off the ground that they like to hit the serve, set themselves up for that first shot off the ground and hit a winner off it. We see here Jim Courier waiting for the call.
Okay, all right,
I'll take it.
40-15.
So what they do is they go for winners off the return. Get more pace than a volleyer would, and so in some cases it's more dangerous. Very difficult to play against on grass.
For Courier. 3-2 opening set. Here's the end of that last point.
You see here, Pete Sampras slips there, almost falls down. Good balance there, but that's what cost him getting that volley. I'm not sure, actually, in retrospect, if he would have had that anyway. That was a heck of a shot by Jim Courier on the full run. Just he almost fell down hitting that pass. Court in a lot better shape, obviously way outside the court, a lot greener there, a little bit more slippery because of that. 2-3.
No break points yet. First double fault for Sampras.
I can see watching Jim that he's trying to get inside the baseline once again off the return. The tougher thing to accomplish against Pete Sampras and Stefan Edberg, but definitely something he should be trying.
And he got in against Edberg.
Very, very successful against Stefan.
John, think about this question. Respond a little later. Pete is so silky, so smooth. Who has ever been like that in our time?
Well, I don't know how far you want to go back, but my idol, Rod Laver, was a very, very smooth player. I looked up to his...
Yeah, you
try
really
to
have
emulate
to go
his
back,
game.
though, don't you? And among Americans, I don't know, do you go back to Budge? Gee.
We see the last British champion here, Fred Perry, 1934-36.
And Kenny Rosewall on the right, the greatest player never to win 4 finals.
And Perry, who is also a commentator, tennis on BBC, has likened this young man, Sampras, to a fluid machine. He predicted, along with Don Budge, that it would be just a short time before Sampras would win this Wimbledon title.
Here's an example of what I said Jim Courier needs to do. Watch this returner serve. He tries to step inside the baseline. Just met that ball. No backswing whatsoever. Had a lot of time here to put it where he wanted, though. Jim Courier's some of the best passing shots in the game. Good preparation. He cocks that backhand, unlike other two-handed players.
3-all. That comes from his baseball background, that two-handed, left-handed swing that he used in his Little League years following his father, who was a pitcher for the University of Florida. And Courier's early life, he thought that's what he would do, fulfill a dream of playing for the Cincinnati Reds. Instead, here he is playing for the Wimbledon title. There are the parents.
Dick, in all my years of tennis, I've never seen anyone hit a two-handed backhand like Jim Courier. It's exactly like a baseball swing.
Well, Borgs came from a slap shot in hockey, just a little different.
But what Jim Courier does differently is he cocks it up high as opposed to keeping it down low below the ball and coming up on it. You have to be very, very strong to cock it. Your wrist be so tight. And the timing has to be extremely good in order to succeed with that shot. It's not an easy shot to emulate by any means.
On the other hand, Sampras with the classic strokes.
30 love.
Sweet one is what Courier calls Pete. I said, what's that from? He said, well, Sweet Pete. We all said that when we were kids because he played so sweetly.
There's the Perry comment. He's like Pancho Gonzalez, moves like oil. You don't hear him. You only hear the guy who's losing. It's a great quote. Perry at 84, still such a delight.
Good to see Fred back in good health. Was struggling a bit at the French Open. Still doing some commentating on BBC radio. Now, that's a tough gig to do, huh?
40 love.
We should try to do that sometimes, Dick, the NBC radio telecast of the tennis match. Not like football. A lot tougher than football, I'm sure. Here's Fred again.
But you've done it on radio.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. The Liptons in Key Biscayne I've done a couple of times.
Must be tough if they do it like a 10 or 15 stroke rally to keep up with that.
I had Chang and Mancini last year. That went on and on.
Third
40,
double
15.
fault. But no cracks in either man's serve to this point.
Well, you saw something that Jim Courier tried to do there that he hasn't done the whole match. He was going to come in on the second serve. Good time to try it at 40 love. Put a little extra oomph on it. His first double fault. His third double fault, I'm sorry. Always say it. Good time to double fall at 40 love.
Gee.
Not quite as good at 40-15.
Double faults have played a very important part in these championships. Yesterday, Jana Novotná just falling apart late in the third set and losing to Steffi Graf. Boris Becker had double fault problems as he lost his match to Sampras. And Stefan Edberg had a strange series of double faults when Courier beat him. Big forehand for Courier. Still on serve.
New ball, please.
Welcome back to Wimbledon and a look at our Xerox Sports Facts question. When was the last time the Wimbledon fortnight had such glorious weather, not interrupted by rain?
Let me guess, 1895.
Well, you're close.
Which was the last time, I think, Bud Collins, the first time, I should say, Bud Collins covered the tournament.
Second.
On serve, 3-4, Sampras. New balls. Double fault number 2. Sampras puts the ball in play as quickly as any pro on the circuit. And a lot of them will bounce several times. I don't know what, can't remember your pattern, but it had a few bounces in it. Sampras, one bounce and go to work.
Not as many as Jimmy Connors, but did have a couple bounces. What I've noticed here is Pete's taking his time, though, in other matches. Beautiful touch there by Pete Sampras. Took a little bit off his serve here, made sure he got the first serve in play, a little bit of topspin. Could have been out, that ball. Could have gone wide. He didn't want to take any chances. He knows he's quick enough to cover the next ball.
King of the bounce was Mark Dixon. Do you remember him?
Yeah, he took about 25.
32, 34, and you hated when he missed the first serve.
Then he'd throw this ball up and say his son was in his eyes. Start all over again.
They would put the clock on him, but very seldom catch him.
Sampras backing off a couple of times, a stir in the crowd.
Well, basically, Dick, this whole match is really going to hinge on how well Pete Sampras serves and how well Jim Courier returns the serve. Pete's so dangerous off the serve. Look, we see it today. First serve percentage. 70% will be very, very difficult to break. Might as well forget about it. Jim only at 48% right now.
He's on that Jana Novotná curve.
If you see Jim Courier get up 4-1, 2 breaks in the 5th set, I'd be very surprised to see him lose it.
Really?
40-15.
A la Jana yesterday, I feel very bad for it.
That was off.
Pete Sampras likes to hit that big bomber straight up the middle, along with that slice out wide. There's a big bomb up the middle.
Ball game's all, first set.
Well, it will be a moment that this 93 championship will be remembered by. The Duchess cradling Jana Novotná in defeat as Novotná broke into tears. We'll relive that moment and examine Novotná from what impact that might have, that loss. Also in our memories late today. We'll
15 love.
once again relive those poignant moments. First ace.
Jim Courier's serve also very, very underrated. One of the bigger first serves in the game.
Love.
You see the Jim Courier serve here. Doesn't come in off it. A lot of power, good timing.
We saw young Mark Goldner, the German, in a tiebreak, but what, 4 in a row?
He did, and he had 5 in a row in that match, actually, against Boris Becker. That's the most I've ever seen in a row. Oh, what an approach.
Our Xerox Sports Facts answer, the last time no rain, 16 years ago.
your rookie year, John, you must have thought it was like that every year.
Little did I know. I thought the English press were funny, too.
You like that chip return?
2 sweet slice backhands by Pete Sampras in the last 2 points. We see the return here that Bud's grown to like so much. That nice slice backhand return down low. Jim Courier serving and volleying there. Pete Sampras not fooled. And also that previous point, Bud, a beautiful slice approach. Very difficult for Jim Courier to handle that shot with that cocked backhand grip. Jim Courier likes the ball up a little higher. Someone like Andre Agassi could scoop that ball a little bit easier.
Sampras hesitated. He wanted to come in, but the shot was too short.
A good return.
Dick, he really should have come in. Jim Courier is not very comfortable in that no man's land between the baseline and the service line. He was going to come in, changed his mind when he saw Jim coming in.
He's got to make that play against Courier's serve.
Jim Courier is not real comfortable at the net, doesn't have as much touch that Pete Sampras does, so he should try to come in on that. Play Jim Courier, 2 men at the net at the same time.
Game Courier.
Courier holds. 5-4, no breaks.
Courier.
Courier and Sampras growing up together, close friends, but now 1 and 2, and that always will change a relationship.
Started playing against
It's
each
not quite
other.
the same as, we played doubles all year, 1 year, reached the Masters and traveled together, ate meals together, practiced together all the time, and things change a little bit. Pete travels with his girlfriend and his coach, and I've got my coaches with me, and
15
just
love.
not quite. We're not quite the young bucks that we were. We're now a bunch of veterans now, which is kind of weird at age 22 and 21 to be veterans, but we are, and it's kind of weird.
Not the closest to chums they once were, but certainly good friends, and they would be rooting for each other if they weren't opponents today.
A little weird, as he says.
2 aces now for Sampras.
As Dick, you said, it's inevitable when guys are number 1 and number 2 in the world. They're not going to be as tight. That's what Jim Courier wants to do more of. Step inside the baseline,
15 all.
move into that top spin second serve before it is all over him. Keep the body moving forward. 15 all. That second serve has such kick, he doesn't want to bounce up high over his shoulder.
30-15.
Third ace.
Pete is so tough on the deuce side. He can hit that big flat one up the middle or take a little bit off it and slice it out wide, all with the same motion. And that's what makes it so difficult to read.
He calls it his heater up the middle.
Well, Bud, there's a heater out wide. He hits that very well, too. That's not an easy serve for a right-hander to hit. Look at Jim Courier bouncing on his toes. Very little he can do with that return. 40-15, 2 points for 5 all.
James Sampras.
3 aces in that game for Sampras. He is heating up.
Well, Dick, Jim Courier has to respect that serve out wide, and that opens up that big heater up the middle.
They first played when Jim was 11 and Pete was 10. Goes back that far. Pete generally won in those days.
Though the youngest. Courier, in many regards, was a late bloomer. Men around him, Agassi at Bollettieri's was the star, and Courier was the next level.
15 love.
He's a tenacious competitor, as competitive as anyone on the tour, driven to be better. He'll play a long match, and then he'll go out and run. He wants to be conditioned both physically and mentally.
The Rock. that what you
call
call him?
Rock. Davis Cup, he's called Rock. Strong as a rock.
Show how they've dominated in their service games. Each has allowed only 7 points against serve. Now in the 10th game. 11th game.
Where's Jim?
Dick, that was an amazing point on grass. Wow.
13 strokes.
30 love.
The previous shot, that was a great slice approach by Pete Sampras. Hits a great lob over Pete's head. Doesn't come to net. Stays back. Gets the ball back in play here. Likes to hit that big inside-out forehand. Eventually, Pete hits it long over the baseline. Loose play there by Pete at the end.
Oop.
Not up.
30-15.
Dick, as you pointed out, Jim Courier is the toughest player on the tour mentally right now. Plays a best-of-5 set match as we watch this replay. Goes for a run after the match. Not too many players you hear do that. Good effort there to try to get to that.
That was your schedule, wasn't it? To always have
Before
a
and
run?
after the match.
Ran to the icebox.
Yeah, that ice cream diet of yours, we all could identify with that. Run to the store and get some vanilla.
Well, people certainly understood where I was coming from, right?
Right.
Play 3 or 4 hours. What else are you going to do?
40-15.
That's that floater that Sampras used so effectively.
And I'm sure Jim Courier took note of that. Watching Andre Agassi just sit back there and not do anything with that return, he's going to mix it up just enough to force Pete to do more with the return.
That helped him to get off to a quick 6-2, 6-2, 2-set lead against Agassi, and then Agassi came back to take the 3rd and 4th sets before Sampras could close him out. 2 points for 6-5. Closer to a tiebreak here in the opening set. Oh my, a blistering forehand, and we'll return to Wimbledon after these words from your local station.
Courier leads 6 games.
We're back at Sunday Center Court, and history hints that we're headed for another tiebreak. 4 of the last times 5 sets that they've played have gone to tiebreaks. And Sampras serving 4-6 all.
Now 15.
There's that much improved Jim Courier backhand return on grass. He's known as one of the best returners in the world on other surfaces, but on grass he struggled. But there, cut off the angle, that short backswing, his strength. The bounce looks there in Jim Courier's legs. Looks a lot stronger than he did even in the French Open.
Took that right off the rise.
My coach, Tony Palafox, always taught me to take the ball on the rise if possible.
And you did.
All.
Sampras won Hong Kong, but in 2 tie breaks to close it out, and the ATP Finals in Cincinnati, 7-6, 7-6 beat Courier, so they're that closely matched.
Where Pete originally took the #1 computer ranking at Hong Kong, beating Jim Courier in a thrilling 3-set match, 7-6 in the 3rd, 8-6 in the tiebreak. There's that power just overwhelming Jim Courier.
30-15.
It's a dilemma for Jim Courier. If he stays back, then Pete Sampras can use that angle serve he's got and slice him off the court. And if he steps in, he uses the big heater up the middle, and it's just too much. It's the dilemma you face sometimes when you play against a great fastball pitcher. Nolan Ryan.
$40-15.
And Jim hoping that one was wide.
Ace number 5 And for Sampras, his 91st in the championship.
Such variety off the serve. That appeared to be a little bit wide, though, on the replay. Jim might have had a good beef there. Not like clay courts, though. They don't look at the marks here, so 40-15.
Game Sampras.
Tie break. Well, this drama of young Americans battling for a Wimbledon title in their first ever final appearance. And the entire match could swing on who is able to capture this tiebreak. Courier leads 5-3 in tie breaks head-to-head.
Pete Sampras used to practice a lot with Ivan Lendl a couple of years back. Saw that Ivan had tremendous dedication, dedicated himself to working harder. Another shot he may have learned from Ivan Lendl was that down-the-line backhand pass.
Should Courier have backhanded that volley?
Well, he's not a natural volley, as you know, Bud, so he just was a little hesitant there, and he paid the price for it. One love, Pete. Pete has utilized that serve out wide to the Courier backhand so well throughout this first set and throughout the whole championships, especially against Andre Agassi in the quarterfinals.
Pete this year 16-10, and it's won 405 during Wimbledon. And Jim Courier's tiebreak report card, 13-8 and 4-0 this year at Wimbledon.
There we saw Jim Courier's effort. Unrivaled except by anyone except probably Michael Chang. Stretched out wide on the forehand. Pete likes to hit that serve. Full run. Just flicked at that backhand. Just missed that by about an inch. Bad break for Jim Courier. Love 3. Pete a little bit overeager there. Didn't take the racket back quite quickly enough and then try to go for too much on that shot. Would love to get another mini break here to go up 4-1 with 2 serves to come. Might not be a bad idea to try to come in off this return.
He was.
3-2 Sampras.
Definitely the right idea. The only thing you want to do there is not miss that return. He just missed it wide. Play it a little bit safe. Try to hit the ball 2 feet inside the line, so in case you catch it a little bit later, it will still come in and force your opponent to hit a passing shot. Don't aim for the lines. Never ever. None of the top players ever aim for the lines. That's a myth.
4-2 Sampras.
They change hands after Sampras nails his 6th ace. Arthur Ashe, we miss him. And NBC Sports has produced what we feel is a poignant and wonderful tribute to the man. And we hope you'll stay with us after the men's final.
Dick, without a doubt, the greatest ambassador the tennis has ever had to this point.
Maybe
1975 Wimbledon champion, Arthur Ashe. Big serve by Pete Sampras to go up 5-2. This is looking at it from Jim Courier's perspective. So tough to know where he's going to serve it. This time he chose to take a little bit off it and swing it out wide.
Yeah, the pressure on Courier throughout the tiebreak after losing the first point on that backhand down the line by Sampras.
Dick, I talked to Pete before the match today. He said his shoulder
6-2
felt great, which is good
Sampras.
news for the Pete Sampras fans. Bad news for Jim Courier, however. It's amazing how that fifth set victory over Agassi has seemed to help his injury so much. 4 set points now for Pete Sampras.
Sampras.
Gutsy move by Jim Courier there, coming in off a second serve.
But now Sampras has 2 shots on his serve to capture the opening set. Number 1 player in the world, top-seeded Pete Sampras, takes the lead.
Guide to English royalty at Wimbledon. The Queen, the King, the Kingdom, the Palace, the Throne, the Audience, the Image, the Style, the Wimbledon Collection, by Racket Club, in the finest stores in America.
Time.
So Jim Courier sees Pete Sampras win the tiebreak 7 points to 3. He told us to win today, he must be patient. Hope Sampras gives him some second serves.
A lot of times it's self-defense on a surface like this. And if Pete serves a high percentage of first serves, it's going to be very difficult for me. I think it's very difficult for someone to serve a high percentage for a whole 3 out of 5 set match. And I would hope that I would get some chances at some stage. And, you know, when I do, I hope to be able to capitalize on them.
Well, that's exactly the case. Sampras serving very high first serve, 70%. And now Courier hopes, just as was the case in the semis against Stefan Edberg, who had a high first serve early, that somewhere along the line, Sampras will slow down and he'll get a chance to break.
Well, he's right about a couple things, Dick. He's not going to break Pete Sampras' serve if he's serving 70% first serves. And 2, maybe it's a little bit of a hope, banking that Pete will slow down, that you can't serve that consistently throughout a whole match. I think it can be done. I think Pete could do it. Serving extremely well in the first set.
15 love.
I think the fact that Pete Sampras was such a close friends with Jim Courier is helping him in this match. The occasion isn't quite as overwhelming because he's playing someone he knows very well. Seems to have settled into the match a little bit more quickly than I would have thought.
There's a second serve, but no go for Courier, 30 love. Our Diet Pepsi recap. Sampras with a big first serve percentage. Winners a +8 for Sampras. 3 more unforced errors. No breaks in the first set.
Courier's first serve percentage only at 49%. He wasn't broken in the first set, but he needs to pick that up a little bit, or Pete Sampras will be able to take some more chances off that return.
Number 7. Dick Enberg with John McEnroe, Bud Collins, Hannah Storm, and Chris Everett will be joining us. Breakfast at Wimbledon. We're pleased you've joined us for the men's final. A rare All-America final on center court. Happened only 4 times in the last 46 years.
Game Sampras. First game, second set. Sampras leads 1 set to love.
This championship difference is brought to you by Merrill Lynch. For clients around the world, we make a difference.
18 years ago, Arthur Ashe made a difference at Wimbledon, combining his remarkable talent with a flawless execution of a thoughtful game plan. Ashe beat Jimmy Connors in one of the greatest upsets in Wimbledon history, the first African-American man to win the title. The difference is Merrill Lynch. Happy holiday, 4th of July. Sent it back from Wimbledon, London, where McEnroe and Connors played in 84 and 82 All-America finals. Ashe and Connors in 75. And then, Bud, we go all the way to 47.
Yeah, and we hope Big Jake Kramer's watching, and Tom Brown. Tom Brown's still playing wonderfully into his 70s.
Hard-earned point for Courier.
Well, Dick, Jim Courier is not known for his touch around the net, but this shot speaks for itself. This is an amazing drop volley by Jim Courier. Sliced it like he was slicing some butter onto some bread. Beautiful shot.
Painted the line.
There's that nice soft backhand return by Pete Sampras. Jim Courier trying to take a page out of Pete's book. Hit that serve out wide of the backhand. Pete with the delicate touch down the line.
Outside all the way until it dropped right on the titanium paste.
Scoreboard says 30 love, but both players know it's 15 all.
Rare scoreboard
Isn't it?
mistake.
Dick, the English press a little bit upset that 2 Yankees are in the finals here, but Americans are loving it. Independence Day, 4th of July.
30-15.
Well, Jim said it was comforting. It would be comforting to look across the net and see Pete, because the last 3 All-American finals have not been exactly that amicable. I'll ask the gentleman to my left when he played Jimmy Connors twice.
Could have been better.
Could have been better. And of course, Jimmy was suing Arthur Ashe when they played in 1975.
Pete Sampras likes to leave that forehand side open so he can rip that forehand cross court, but in this case, left it a little bit too wide open. Really was expecting the backhand. Forced to just lunge for that forehand, hit it long. 40-15. Well, Pete Sampras coming in on that beautiful backhand slice. He's hit that extremely well throughout the match. Inside-out volley, and a very tough shot to hit. Took a bad bounce in the previous shot. Jim Courier was forced to play a defensive shot, allowing Pete to come into net for that put away. Utilizing a very similar game plan as the one he used against Andre Agassi. Just slice that ball, keep it down low, knows that players with 2 hands have trouble handling that. Then he too, Bud, likes to run around that backhand, sometimes hit that inside-out forehand as we just saw, and sneak in behind it.
First deuce of the match. Everything went to the server in that opening set. Then the tiebreak won by Sampras. And here's a chance for Sampras at deuce, second serve.
Who would have thought that? A serve and volley, second serve.
He's done it twice.
We've seen him do it at 40 love, but that's the first time I've seen him do it at such a big point, deuce. Pete Sampras trying to get that ball down low with that slice. Always a smart player on grass. Go behind the player. Footing's a little bit suspect on grass. Advantage Courier.
Game Courier.
Dick, that's the other thing he needs to do. Try to pick up that first serve percentage just a little bit. He doesn't want to have to keep coming up with those big volleys on deuce on the off the second serve.
John, how about the court itself for fans watching and the United States. It just is so bruised and worn, and there are dirt spots on the court, and it would appear almost impossible to get a decent bounce, but not that bad?
Well, in grass court terms, it's in pretty good shape. But as I've said earlier, you need to keep your wrists loose off the return and also when you're playing off the ground, because if you don't and you get a bad bounce, you won't be able to adjust to it. That's why it's important for Jim Courier to get good bounces. He likes to lock his wrist, especially on the backhand.
Or from way inside the baseline to hit that backhand return.
The advantage that Jim Courier has, however, is he's so strong that if he does get a bad bounce, he can muscle the ball. There's what his game plan is, to try to get inside that baseline, short backswing, take it early. Good start by Jim Courier in this game.
15 all.
There's a big eraser, number 8.
The court was much more furrowed and dug up when you played Bjorn Borg in 1980, and that added to the remarkable aspects of that match. You guys acted like you were playing on a clay court.
Bjorn and I dug up the court pretty good. We like to slide our foot on the serve. These players a little bit smoother.
That looks like Farmer Brown's bean field sometimes.
Sun parched, back of the baseline. Another old dirt area just before the tee.
Actually would be a firmer bounce, Dick, but it'd be tougher to move on if it's dirt like that. Nice serve volley there by Pete Sampras. It's tougher to move on that court when it's almost like a clay court without any clay on it. You see a replay of the second serve. Good, deep second serve. Such a solid volleyer. Jim Courier not able to do anything with that pass.
I mean, it's almost a different sport from playing day one on center court, where it's all grass and the ball is skidding low.
Tough to be the defending champion here. The toughest of the 4 majors to walk out on the first day. Monday at 2 o'clock.
Just long on serve in the second. The match has not had a break yet.
Sampras leads 2-1. Second set.
A year ago this month, Juan Antonio Samran in his home Barcelona, opening ceremonies of the 1992 Olympic Games. And big tennis fan, we usually see His Excellency here every fortnight. It's Atlanta next up.
He does like tennis, and he was influential, along with Philippe Chatrier, in restoring tennis to the Olympic Games in 1988.
Courier's had great success on his second serve, winning 16 of 21 points, and 4 of the 5 points lost were double faults.
La 15.
Well, he loses that one on the backhand.
Dick, you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. He really needs to get that first serve percentage up. 53%, not high enough against Pete Sampras. Good percentage off the first serve, but an excellent percentage off the second serve. 76%. That's surprising. He's not going to get away with that indefinitely.
Ooh.
You see here, Jim Courier just clipping the back of the baseline, I believe, on this shot. Could have been a little bit long. Pete Sampras didn't say anything. That's when you're in trouble against Jim Courier, when he has time to set up for that forehand. Can go both ways so well. 15 all.
Well, some would consider it a jinx to be seeded #1 at Wimbledon. There's not been a lot of success by the #1 seeds of late. In fact, you have to go back 9 years. Last time, the #1 man won Wimbledon, McEnroe over Connors in '84. .30-15.
Certainly a great honor to be seated #1, so I'm sure Pete Sampras is very proud of that.
been successful on the serve and volley second ball, hasn't he?
Well, the other number ones who didn't win, Edberg 3 times, 4 times Lendl, Becker, McEnroe in 85, out in the quarters, but back to 84 as the number 1 seed. Beat Connors, and it was you at your best. Did you ever play a better match than that 84?
Certainly one of my best, if not my best ever, in a big situation. Jimmy was not playing his best, so.
We've got still about 13 commercials left over that we have to get in today from that 84 match. It only took an hour and, what, 20 minutes for you?
And we'll get him in.
Biggest shock of all those results was that Peter Doohan upset of Boris Becker in 1987.
Gee.
Courier stroking magnificently. 2-all.
Pete Sampras thought he was going to go cross-court on the forehand. He held it the last instant just a little bit and just ripped the winner up the line. There's that baseball swing off the backhand side. Here's where Jim Courier at the last second just held it just a split second. Pete thought he was going to go cross-court. 2-all.
Both men disguising their shots so well. How do you read them?
They better. They know each other so well. They've been playing, like Bud said, since they were 11.
Oh, he had it.
15 love.
If there's one aspect of Jim Courier's game that he could improve, it would be going from the defensive to the offensive. Here, he just barely got that return back. Had a great opportunity to come in on that. Try to body language that ball into the court. That doesn't work too often.
He's getting some second serves this set.
Got to give Jim Courier credit, though. He's improved in so many different ways.
Second serve ace, number 9.
Bit of a surprise here. Pete Sampras so effective off the second serve. We know he's got a heavy serve, but Jim Courier serving and volleying off the second serve. We see here at 9 aces already. Jim Courier only 2.
95 for the championship for Sampras, the highest of this Wimbledon, but even Ivanisevic was over 200 last year.
14 love.
Ooh, that almost caught the net. Judge, it's been a dangerous time for the officials at this Wimbledon. We're going to share some of that with you later in our program. This is a dangerous game, tennis.
Well, that gentleman is Chris Fortescue Matthews.
Well, the net court judge is certainly the most dangerous position to be in if you're a linesman. He got careless there on that backhand overhead. Only need to hit the ball in the court.
But Courier made him hit one more shot with his hustle.
Jim Courier is such a smart player. Never gives up on any point. Open court, Pete couldn't get it in.
Not a break point in the match. 40-15.
Game Sampras.
Overpowering. 3-2 in the second. Sampras won the tiebreak.
Sampras lead 3 games to 2.
Junior doubles in the near court. That's court 1. Over 7,000 fans watching there. And famed center court. Top of your picture.
Take your seat, please.
Over 13,000 fans in this tennis cathedral with its big overhanging roofs and its dark green landscaping. Jim Courier serving from behind in the second set, down a set. 2-3.
Dick, that's certainly a thrill for those junior players to be playing in court 1 in front of a packed house. I remember playing my junior final of the French. There was 3 people watching.
I was one of them, thank goodness.
My mother, father, and Bud.
Oh! What an effort by Sampras to win the point.
I think Jim Courier just got a headache on that dive and it landed on his head. He certainly wasn't expecting Pete Sampras to run this ball down. Pete Sampras showing you why he's considered one of the best movers on the court as well. Look at that. Fortunately, Jim didn't hit his head. Full dive here. What a beautiful thing to watch. It's too bad that didn't go over. Pete's movement very underestimated.
Even running full speed, he's so fluid, you underestimate his total prowess.
That was a 7-step get. Extraordinary.
And the way these two are playing, it would seem that any break of service would be disastrous for the other.
This is a bit of a danger zone for Jim Courier. It's sort of, match is just sort of going along fairly quietly. Not much seems to be happening. He's got to really concentrate here, bear down, make sure he doesn't lose serve. Does not want to get down 2 sets to love to Pete Sampras.
Oh, he caught Sampras wrong footing, and Pete with a mild split trying to recover.
Looked like a gymnast there.
One knockdown apiece in this game.
Look at this return. Pete saw the ball coming behind him, tried to readjust, couldn't get his footing. We hear Jim Courier's new favorite phrase, Bud, allez.
Allez. He's
Go,
cosmopolitan.
Speaks excellent French.
Even talked about buying an apartment in Paris and living there part-time during the European circuit.
Well, Pete spoke Spanish out here, he said the other night. Hasta la vista.
You could hear Courier, oh no, as he was loose in that forehand volley.
Usually his wrists are so firm, especially off the ground. That's where he needs to be firm, at net. He got a little bit loose here. Indecisive at the last moment. Wasn't sure whether to half volley that or volley it. Paid the price. 40-30 though still. That's why it's so important to keep the racket in front of you. Once it gets behind you at the net, you're in trouble.
3-all.
And always bend your knees, too, right, John?
Just like that last volley.
Yeah.
I got away with a little bit. Eli Nastase used to rarely, if ever, bend his knees. Very talented player from Romania, played in the 60s and 70s, and even some in the 80s. Was around quite a while.
Well, you made it very difficult on every tennis pro in the world because of all that, you know, approach the net, nice two-footed stop, that little tee stop, get yourself ready, and you just ran right through all your volleys.
Dick, I was taught by my old coach, Tony Palpatz, as long as I was moving forward and punched that ball, that's just as effective as those volleys you read about in traditional tennis books.
But Tony was a very good volleyer. He and Rafe Osuna won the Wimbledon doubles.
1963. Finals at Davis Cup that year, too, I believe.
Year before.
Losing to the great Australian team. Dick, that's more of that classic volley you would see there with Pete Sampras. Watch this volley. This is the volleys you read out of textbooks. Good racket preparation, just punch at the ball.
You could use him to illustrate all the shots. He's so classic.
Looked up to the Australian players of the past himself, Pete Sampras. Not only their style of play, but their temperament as well.
Lost only 10 points on his serve today and has surrendered only 2 points in 4 service games in the second set. So Courier not even getting close to a chance.
At some point soon, Dick, Jim is going to have to make some sort of an adjustment in his return game. We see here Jim Courier returning serve, clips the net. Pete Sampras just blocks the ball back. Here's that beautiful touch that Pete possesses. Jim Courier, great effort, but to no avail. We were talking about what Jim Courier needs to do more off the return. He's going to have to make an adjustment like he did against Stefan Edberg. We'll talk more about that the next game when he's returning.
3-4.
1-2. I'm sorry, 3-4.
That's one of the better shots from Sampras, and they're all beautiful at that running forehand, and he scored well throughout the championships with that shot. Missed barely there.
Well, he's utilized his hook forehand passing shot so well. Had a real opportunity at the French Open against Sergi Bruguera in the quarterfinals. Real chance to win that match. Could have been the first serve volley player in decades to win that tournament, American.
Are these the two men to beat in the U.S. Open? Do you see them in the finals there?
No question about it. Number 1 and number 2. That could very well decide the number 1 for the whole year. As I said, if Jim Courier wins this match, I believe he's virtually assured of being number 1. If Pete Sampras wins this match, like I expect he will, that's going to open things up and make the U.S. Open very, very interesting.
Sampras beat Courier in the semis last year at Flushing Meadow.
Oh, there's a free point for Courier, 40 love.
Not many.
Last time number 1 met number 2 ranked in the world, 1981, a dozen years ago, and Borg was the defending champion against the aspiring New Yorker John McEnroe.
I remember when I had all that hair, Dick.
Oh!
It's 4-all.
Well, we were talking about Pete Sampras' variety, but look at Jim Courier here. Looks like he's going to hit that inside-out forehand, the last-second drop shot. Not a real deep one, but effective nonetheless because Pete wasn't expecting it, and that beautiful cross-court angle pass.
Duck hooked that one into the court. That heavy top spin. Now Sampras, 4 games of this set he served, allowed just 2 points.
15 love.
Dick, I talked about last game what I think Jim Courier needs to do. What he did against Stefan Edberg was he started behind the baseline, eventually moved in. I don't think that's going to work against Pete Sampras. I think he should either try to go into the doubles alley just to show him a different look, maybe try to move back a little bit, go way back and just take a full swing at it. He's got to try, and here's what he's doing now in this point. Listening well to the commentators.
Well, we're quite near.
7 rows off the court at the opposite end of Courier at the present.
Well, that's the downside if you stand back behind the baseline with someone of Pete Sampras' talent to hit that beautiful drop volley. But a very smart move here by Jim Courier, changing things up. Things haven't been going well for him off the return. As you said, only 2 points the whole set. Beautiful touch, though, by Pete Sampras.
But what we're also saying, John, is that Sampras seems to have all the answers today.
Well, Jim Courier has to keep giving him different looks and wait for that 1 or 2 opportunities. They're going to be few and far between in this match.
And it may well be decided in tie breaks the way they're playing. The point from 5-4.
Pete Sampras hits his serve probably 15 miles an hour faster than Stefan Edberg, so it's so much tougher for Jim Courier to move inside the baseline off the return.
40-15.
A rare double fault for Sampras, only his third, for a man who serves so big and be so accurate as well.
That's the other thing, Dick, that Pete Sampras isn't given credit for, his accuracy off the serve.
Just after 3:30 in England. We're pleased you've made us part of your 4th of July holiday.
Game Sampras.
And Sampras and Courier are pleased to perform. An American will be champion today.
Sampras.
In the chair today, Dr. Sultan Ganji. He's 40, Zanzibar. Earned his Ph.D. in chemistry at London University, where he played hockey as well. It's his first men's final. He umpired the ladies' final last year.
His first and his last, right, Dick? You only do one and they put you out to pasture.
You have any relationship with him?
I've had a relationship with all of them, so he's just one of many.
Courier 4-5 in the second set.
Out. 15 love.
Pete Sampras starting to go after the turn a little bit more. A full swing on that return, just missed it long.
This is the game to go for him. Come in on second balls.
Courier serving to stay in the set. Both those returns just missing less than a foot. Let's check the first serve percentages now. Boy, Sampras 70, 57% this set, so there have been more chances for Courier, but you wouldn't know it by the results.
Well, you see here, Jim Courier up to 58%. Good improvement for him. He's been able to keep Pete Sampras off balance, off the return still.
That was a fascinating low slice by Courier before the last point. It took a terrible bounce, and it was what you were talking about, being flexible enough to adjust right in here.
That's something that Jim Courier might not even been able to do last year. That's another thing. If he wasn't so strong there, Dick, he wouldn't have even made that pass. Very, very strong arms and wrist. Good timing as well. 40 love.
Now the depth of the approach had Courier retreating and left the court wide open.
We see here Pete Sampras seizes the initiative there, realizes he had a chance to come in. That's what he needs to do more of, like Bud pointed out. Stefan Edberg is the king of that. Looks like he's on the defensive. Suddenly, there he is at net. Pete Sampras by no means a slouch.
Oh!
Well, Dick, maybe Jim Courier could have put one of these volleys away, but certainly he didn't expect Pete Sampras to do this. Beautiful forehand pass down the line. His body was in such good balance as he hit that pass.
2 game points swatted away for 5 all. It's 40-30.
And Jim has missed 4 first serves.
Pete should try to come in on this again if he can.
On anything.
Ooh. And that places Sampras 2 points from a 2-set lead. Only the second deuce of the match.
And Jim Courier has been doing a lot of this throughout the match, trying to come in off the second serve. Pays the price. If you're going to serve that ball out wide to the back, and you better cover the line.
4-5 deuce.
Another second serve chance for Pete Sampras.
He's edging in, too. Just out.
Overrule, it'll be a let.
Oh, that appeared to be out. It's at our end of the court.
That's a very surprising overrule by Sultan
say it
Ganji.
is.
That was not clearly in by any means. And Jim Courier is upset at that.
At 4-5 deuce, what a time to overrule. Some players would go ballistic.
No one I know. Looked to be clearly outside the line there. Jim Courier to try to take his time here, regroup. Surprising overrule there by the umpire.
Too close to overrule.
First serve.
Dick, this could be a real turning point in this match.
It's a sixth first serve gone astray.
Jim Courier very, very upset at the umpire, and he has a right to be. Should not have overruled with that. Well, that's also learning from your past mistakes. Change the word a little bit.
Fudge.
Same end result.
So instead of having a game point, now it's Sampras. Another second serve for a two-set lead. That was the first break point of the entire match. 2 full sets, and it went for a set point. Courier with a big forehand.
And look what happens to Pete Sampras here. Falls down, has to dive for that.
So Courier still angry at the Sultan Ganji, Dr. Ganji, and can't get away with too much more of that, or he might hear a penalty.
Oh, he got the net cord and the pad.
Well, it's to his credit that under these circumstances, he's still able to raise his game.
Advantage Courier.
Dick, he's kept his composure very well. He'll get away with those things all day. He wasn't saying anything obscene. And a beautiful cross-court passer and a big, big point for Jim Courier. Be a monumental task for him to come back from 2 sets down against Pete Sampras.
So Jim Courier turns up the burners. 5-all.
Wimbledon 1993 is brought to you.
Jim Courier ever so close to dropping 2 sets down. Angered by a line call overruled by the chair umpire Sultan Ganji. Able to battle out of it, but not without showing some anger at the chair.
Well, Dick, I'm personally very happy that Jim Courier held there. You'd hate to see a match turn on a call like that.
11 aces now for Sampras.
Now we can get back to the match at hand.
Yeah, Jim. Close escape. 7 first serves missed.
Meanwhile, Sampras just so stingy. He's rolling through this set. 6th game on serve, and yet to give up more than 2 points, a total of 2 points.
This match could have turned into a rout had that been a 6-4 second set.
40 love.
A dozen aces.
That's the best I've seen Pete Sampras serve the whole tournament. He couldn't have picked a better time for it. In the finals of his first Wimbledon. Or should I say his first Wimbledon final, not his first Wimbledon. He's been around here a couple years.
That's 13 consecutive service points for Pete Sampras. Let's pause for these words from your local station. Has been penalized heavily during this Wimbledon, and Courier himself used a no word and almost was thrown out of the championships
First service.
by Jeremy Shales, a chair umpire, who heard of the word and said you're DQ'd. but Courier appealed, and properly he was penalized a point and fined for the abusive language, actually audible profanity.
I saw Jim right after that match, and he said, "John, you won't believe what just happened. I almost got defaulted out of Wimbledon." Fortunately, Alan Mills came to his rescue.
The referee.
Many viewed it as Mr. Shales, the umpire, trying to play too important a role.
He gets officious, that gentleman.
There's
Alan
the
Mills.
referee.
Well, Dick, he's the only official who's ever been fired by the Association of Tennis Players Tour for that very thing.
Shales.
Jeremy Shales.
Love 15. 5-6.
15 all.
Well, this crowd very quiet now, Bud, just waiting for something big to happen. Resolved, perhaps, that it's another tiebreak.
One break point.
30-15.
Jim Courier loves that inside-out forehand. If we watch here, he hits that serve. He likes to jump to his left, run around that backhand if he can, sets himself up. It's very difficult to tell where he's going there. He's so powerful he can hit outright winners.
The backside boogie.
Very few players in the game capable of doing that. A lot try, few succeed. Requires great timing.
That drop volley works again for Sampras, 30 all.
Drop volley is always very effective on grass courts. Pete Sampras taking advantage of coming into the net a la Stefan Edberg, that when you're on the defense, move quickly and be on the offensive. Look at Jim Courier's effort here to try to run this ball down.
Point from a tiebreaker. First set tiebreaker went to Sampras. He took the first point on Courier's serve and went on to win it 7-3.
I'm sure he's disappointed that he didn't even get that block for him return back in play. 40-30 Courier.
Ooh, what a return.
I'm sure he figured, why didn't he do that the last point? Now a decision time for Pete Sampras. If Jim Courier goes to his forehand again, should he take a full swing like this point, or should he just try to block it back and get it into play?
Beautiful to watch. What clean lines on every stroke. Now a full foot inside the baseline is Sampras.
Jim Courier knows Pete Sampras' game well enough to know if you hit a second serve to the backhand, most of the time he does not come in off that, doesn't feel comfortable. Great recovery there on that forehand. Surprised Jim Courier, who missed it wide for set point number 2.
He caught the line. Oh, what a pressure point.
I thought that was going out. Point of the match.
He hadn't tried that shot all day.
Here's where Pete Sampras took control of the point. totally mishit that ball there. Gave Jim Courier another chance. Courier tries to hit the topspin offensive lob over his head. But here's another one. This was a surprise.
That one he hadn't used all day off the two hands. Oh.
What a shot.
Wipe away set point. And after that last point, Sampras for the second time squatting as if his legs were tightening up a bit, taking a little breather. Could that be a sign?
Well, he's certainly tightening up mentally, Dick. He's had 2 set points now in this set. Some good chances here. Hasn't been able to capitalize.
He was in control of it, too.
It was that forehand miss it that cost him that set.
Oh.
Another tiebreaker.
You could just feel the momentum swing just that little bit. Jim Courier taking full advantage. Pete Sampras tentative again off that backhand return. Tiebreak number 2.
Never been successive tiebreakers to open a Wimbledon final.
Is that right? A piece of history. Courier struggling through some of his games on serve, but Sampras in a breeze throughout the set.
1-0 Sampras.
But one thing that Pete Sampras isn't too comfortable doing is coming right in off the return on the backhand side. Would be a good idea if he could try to do that, however. Because of the way he takes the racket back, his elbow gets a little bit too far in front of him. He has trouble slicing that ball unless he has time like we see in the backcourt. Be interesting to see what happens these next 2 points.
Oh.
That acute angle that Courier gets off the two-handed backhand wing.
Well, I said before, he likes to jump to his left. He was going to try to run around that backhand and hit it for, and he couldn't do it, but he held the ball so beautifully. He caught Pete Sampras flat-footed. Beautiful preparation in that baseball-like swing.
Line drive to right.
Reminds me a lot of Rod Carew, that great Minnesota twin.
And California Angel.
Sampras.
That is one of the great strokes in the game, that forehand cross-court.
Well, as I said before, he loves to set you up with that shot, and then he takes full advantage of it. It's got that additional little hook he's got onto it, give him a little bit more topspin if he needs to, play a little bit safer. Looked to me like it took a bit of a bad bounce there. Jim Courier mishit it. 2-1 Pete Sampras, a mini break.
And how does Courier find a way to get the break back, the way Sampras has been serving? Show you how important first serve is, John. He's 17 for 17 first serve points. Here's a second. And he gets the ace. 14th of the match for Sampras.
Jim Courier better start hoping for some double faults, the double fault epidemic that we've talked about with Becker, Edberg. But not here. Pete Sampras is serving beautifully the first 2 sets.
He's had 2 second ball aces.
The backhand, a short ball on the second serve. It's back on serve.
So basically, Dick, Jim Courier is forced to guessing a little bit. Fortunately, he gets a good swing of that backhand, steps in beautifully, and takes full advantage of it. Obviously needs to take advantage of every little chance he has.
Boy, he took that racket right from his body. Didn't even take it back, did he?
Right.
They change ends at 3-all.
3-all.
Pete Sampras is playing awfully close to the baseline those last couple of shots. Jim Courier handled it very well.
Yeah, that's where you're going to get some tough bounces.
Surprised Pete Sampras there. Going down the line, Pete wasn't able to even get the ball back in play.
So a few more points to decide who wins this second set, with Sampras already up a set, 7 points to 3 in the tiebreaker in the first. And a championship well riding on the strokes we're about to see.
Sampras appears to be a little bit tighter right now, Dick. A little bit more bounce in Jim Courier's legs. Could make the difference in this second set tiebreak.
4-3 Courier.
Courier battling to get even, 1 set all, and Sampras just a point or two away from a 2-set lead. Aces, 14-2 favors Sampras today. That's his tournament average, 14, so he is hot.
Now a little more pressure on him.
Looks like Pete's feeling the pressure for the first time here. Struggled the last couple points. Slowed up in his movement just a little bit.
It's good.
Well, this was an important point for Pete Sampras. Jim Courier mishit that return. Pete gave him another chance, so not only did he guess right, but he had to hit that ball just inside the line with a beautiful cross-court angle. What? Not an easy shot to hit at all.
Nice.
Another second serve at 4-all. Now the pressure shifts to Courier.
Pete Sampras should try to make sure he has his feet moving and see if he can get the net. Put some pressure on Jim Courier. He's got that beautiful slice approach. He can use that either cross-court down the line or try to take a good swing at that forehand and come in. 4-5.
Oh, did he get a good swing at that? 5-all.
Well, he certainly went for it.
And he should go for it at this stage.
I don't know if it's necessary to go for an outright winner from that position.
He hit it confidently.
Very risky shot.
Jim Courier shouts, come on, as he now leads 6 points to 5. Set point number 1 for Courier.
Well, certainly Jim Courier hasn't been too successful off his second serve in this match, but he'd love to get a second serve opportunity here.
He has it.
It's good. Oh, my, right in the corner. Change ends after every 6 points in the tiebreaker.
A little bit tight here on this volley by Pete Sampras. Just gets it inside the line. If you saw Jim Courier, he was shaking his hand like Pete was choking that volley. Watch this. Stay with this a couple seconds. He shakes his head, and then he starts giving a little bit of the choke sign. But it's still 6-all.
Doing his own instant replay, Courier.
That was an example of a second serve, but it took a little bit of a bad bounce, and he wasn't able to go after it as much as he would have liked.
First service.
now on, every other point a set point for one man or the other.
Well, this is what Jimmy Van Allen had in mind when he invented this tiebreak system, huh?
His ghost is watching and chortling.
Pete Sampras showing some intensity there.
That's about as animated as you're going to get from Sampras. That's the only thing that makes him different from the silent Swede Bjorn Borg, the taciturn champion of 5 straight Wimbledons. Sampras, the same demeanor, shows so little. Set point number 3 for Sampras.
Whoop.
There's that running forehand. Pete Sampras leads